Brian Murphy here with Jeremy Fowler on day 2 of Vikings training camp.
Hi, Brian.
How you doing? How's the weather treating you?
The weather's perfect.
It's gorgeous. After a scorching week, we really have lucked out, by the way, with some nice breezes, low humidity.
We got 3 weeks though.
We do, and it's probably going to heat up. But at some point, we're just going to enjoy this while it's here. But yesterday was the first official practice, so we got to see some. A little bit of work on the first team offense, and Christian Ponder certainly has a lot of love for Kyle Rudolph, and it looks like the Vikings, who last year preached that they were going to use a lot of 2 tight end sets, really seem to be putting their money where their mouth is with both Rudolph going into his second year and John Carlson, who they signed this year to a big deal. Looks like they're going to probably get them the ball a lot early. What is that going to mean for the dynamic of the offense?
Yeah, I talked to Kyle Rudolph at length yesterday after his big performance when he caught several passes with Christian Ponder. Yeah, he really is unashamed to want to reenact that Gronk Hernandez show in New England, Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, and how much success they've had. He thinks that if they can implement some of those assets that they have in New England between he and John Carlson, they can have a lot of success. We have heard this before, though. Shanko and Rudolph were supposed to have a big year last year. Didn't really work out. I think Donovan McNabb had something to do with that, with the balls that were going to the turf. But I think Rudolph could really break out. He's maybe the guy. He's getting the first team reps in the drills, and he's just got such a unique skill set, with his hands and his size and how he can kind of play basketball and box people out in the middle of the field.
And he's healthy again. I think he had mentioned, this offseason that he was still hampered by hamstring surgery he had his senior year in Notre Dame, and that really caused him some problems. So he seems like he's ready to go.
Yeah, and they've signed Carlson too to a big 5-year, $25 million contract. I mean, that was their first signing when free agency opened. So he might not be the starter, but it doesn't even matter because they're both going to be on the field a lot. I mean, they need big production from him.
What are some of the things you're looking for today on the field as we head into the second practice? I mean, who do you expect to maybe try to tighten some things up? I know Joe Webb had a little bit of issues trying to get some balls in the air, but what are you looking for to see in terms of, who needs to kind of start making some moves and start making some noise?
Right. Everybody looks to the quarterbacks first, and it's always tricky because you don't want to make any kind of sweeping overreactions when a guy has one bad day, because it happens. Joe Webb certainly was airmailing a lot of passes yesterday. I think he had missed 6 straight at one point, incompletions to open receivers really against a phantom defense. So, but obviously his body of work speaks stronger than one day of practice. So, Ponder could look rough today. You just never know. However, I think Webb needs to tighten it up a little bit. He started a little tentatively. Sometimes he waits too long in the pocket, and then, naturally, I think since he's such an athlete, he just wants to run. But today I expect him to be one guy that tightens things up.
A little bit, too, I'd like to see how the chemistry continues to evolve between Ponder and Jerome Simpson, who the Vikings signed out of Cincinnati, sort of to be their downfield playmaking threat that they've really kind of lacked the last couple of seasons. Of course, it's going to be a challenge because he's going to be sitting out the first 3 games because of his drug suspension. So you got to kind of wonder how much work are they going to be able to get done, and how much is going to get interrupted by the fact that he's not going to be on the field. What do you expect to see develop this preseason and then also to carry over into the regular season?
Yeah, it's a difficult balance with him because they get to play him throughout all 4 preseason games. So you want to showcase him, you want him to maximize his potential, but at the same time you got like the rookies, Gray Childs and Jerry is right. You've got some guys behind him. Mike Jenkins is the veteran. You need to get those guys snaps and get them ready to be the second receiver, really. Those first 3 games are going to be critical because it's a pretty soft schedule for them. But without Simpson, they especially need those tight ends to emerge. They need at least one receiver to keep safeties honest downfield to be somewhat of a deep threat. Maybe that's Greg Childs, because he's got a great size, a 6'4", 4th-round pick out of Arkansas, but there's still a lot of uncertainty. So he's got a couple weeks to prove himself.
Another thing I'm going to be keeping an eye on too, and maybe fans should in the next couple of days, is rookie kicker Blair Walsh. There's going to be a lot of eyes on him, a lot of pressure on him. He's the only kicker in camp, and basically the Vikings have basically said, he needs to go out there and prove himself. He also needs to learn how to respond under pressure. He had a pretty soft year as a senior. I think he missed about 14 field goals last year at Georgia. They want to be able to recreate in camp some pressure situations, getting him involved, getting on the field, kicking from several distances in the 2-minute drill, the hurry-up drill, and basically special teams coach Mike Griefer said Walsh needs to treat each preseason game as if it's a playoff game, because what they're missing in Ryan Longwell is a proven kicker who's kicked in a lot of big games, made a lot of pressure kicks, and they don't have that with Walsh. What they have is a young kid with a strong leg, but how many games are going to be on the line for the Vikings this year? Who knows? But you definitely want to go into it with knowing you got a kicker that can thrive in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, they've cleared the runway for this guy. He has no competition here. It's really just him, Chris Kluwe holding for him, Cullen Loeffler. as the long snapper. I mean, he's the guy already established. And you know, Ryan Longwell, you're right, proven commodity. He's made a lot of kicks, and you know, maybe he was declining a little bit as he got into his mid-30s, but he was still reliable. He still kicked at a high percentage, pretty much an 80% kicker all his life. You don't know what you're getting with Walsh. I think they're banking on the fact that he's got a huge leg, so he can get a lot of touchbacks, and they're thinking if they can just speed up his time in his field goal kicks. I guess according to Mike Creeper, the special teams coach, told me that he was going way too fast, you know, when the ball was snapped on those kicks at Georgia. And they're looking to extend him just a couple extra tenths of a second can make a huge difference for him.
And they think they can get at least an extra 5 or 10 yards on kickoffs too, which will get more touchbacks and help in the field position game, because Longwell was sort of slipping in that regard. A couple of injury notes. Obviously, we mentioned yesterday Adrian Peterson starting on active PUP, so he's still day-to-day, chomping at the bit. Obviously, you talked to him yesterday. I mean, is it going to be hard to keep this guy off the field?
Well, it's tricky because he just thinks that he's such a great athlete that really he's invincible, and maybe he is. I mean, we've seen it before, but it's only been 7 months since that ACL surgery, just a couple days over 7 months, and he says he's fully ready to go. You know, he said that all he needs is the chance to be on the field, but I mean, it usually takes at least 8 months for a guy to be close to healthy. So the Vikings need to play this delicately.
And he still needs to take contact.
He still needs to take contact. That first time that he takes a hit, I think that he told me that the real only contact he's had is maybe in a one-on-one drill or something in training where they'll use those sweeping bags to kind of hit him, but that's not the same as a helmet.
It's not exactly an NFL linebacker.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting, but a couple weeks, I mean, maybe if he keeps proving himself and keeps clearing hurdles, maybe they'll throw him out there.
A couple other things, wide receiver Stephen Burton's out with the toe, but he was running some sprints, so it looks like he's probably day-to-day at most. And tight end Mickey Schuler basically has a lingering heel problem that's keeping him off the field. And then yesterday, rookie cornerback Josh Robinson looked like he tweaked a hamstring, but again, nothing really serious. The Vikings are pretty healthy. They're in pretty good shape as they start getting into the grind of things here. So they got a day off tomorrow. They put on the pads for the first time Monday, and that's supposed to heat up in the weather department. Frazier's got them, you know, beating on each other late in the day, so it's gonna be interesting to see if tempers flare. But you know, we're gonna be into the real meat grinder next Monday. So
as long as they can keep half the secondary healthy at this point, I think that's half the battle. You know, because last year they were running on fumes. So
all right, so that's it. We'll be monitoring things, enjoying our day off, and we'll be back on Monday for Jeremy Fowler. It's Brian Murphy. Take care.